Welcome. You're tuned in to the Friday Plan and Expand, powered by Next Step Collective, where we don't just dream, we do. Let's make your next step your best step. Now, with these sessions, here's what we're doing. We're giving you practical strategies and fresh insights and the clarity that you need to stop overthinking and start making moves. No fluff, no guesswork, just real tools to help you turn your vision into reality. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to turn it over to my bro, Kevin Gilmore.
Here we go. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Welcome in. Welcome in.
2026.
Listen, 2026. I think 2025 did a number on me, but we made it.
I mean,
No
here we
doubt.
are.
And we are in the space. So we're going to just jump into some conversation. I'm glad to kind of just be here with you all just to be able to just discuss a few different topics that I think are important at the top of the year. And one of the things I want to kind of quote out on the front end is about self-awareness and the importance of growth and the things that we need to have and things we need to do in our lives to continue growing with ourselves and with others. Mm-hmm. There was this quote that was found. I did not write this, but I do like it. Mm-hmm. You cannot, and I want to emphasize cannot, you cannot do life well with others if you don't know yourself. Mm-hmm. And see, practicing self-awareness is key. And we all know that. I'm sure we have stories about how that works in all of our lives. I'm going to name a couple things. I want to ask you guys a question. So let me name some things about the foundations of self-awareness. Firstly, managing relationships starts with managing yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't want to be my own manager. Mm-hmm. But the reality of it is we do have to manage ourselves so we can manage the relationships around us. Mm-hmm. Another one is knowing yourself is key. Mm-hmm. It's important to do that. You got to know your triggers. You got to know what drains you. You got to know what sustains you. You got to know where your stories come from, what the roots are, and help you understand how you operate with yourself and how you operate with others. And then the third one is most leadership failures aren't strategic. They're relational. Most leadership failures aren't strategic. They're relational. We're going to spend some time there in a little bit. Yeah. But I want to talk about whole person integration.
Yeah.
And really think about who we are, no matter what hat we wear, the roles that we play in life. We bring to the table ourselves, whether we admit it or not. We bring in all the pieces of us. Mm-hmm. Our stories, our experiences, our failures, our excitement, all those things play a role in who we are. As we were going through this and kind of preparing, I was thinking a lot about how childhood traumas also play a role, and how they sometimes come out in spaces that we don't realize, and it adds pressure to the things that we're doing and the way we're trying to do life with others. And sometimes we don't even realize that it showed up for us until something is going on. Mm-hmm. And this is another reason why we're talking about whole person integration, really knowing who you are, no matter if you're leading a team, if you're leading your family, if you're a partner in some kind of business, you have to know who you are and where these things connect to and where they come from. I'm real big about the root of understanding stuff. I am the stickler in my family because I always want to know, where did that come from and why did that happen and where did it, get the details of it. So to really help me. But the thing we need to understand with whole person integration is that real work for growth is making the unconscious conscious. So you're living from awareness, but not reaching from wounds.
Say that again.
I am, because I wish I wrote it, but it was good and it hit me, so I had to kind of making the unconscious conscious. So we're living from awareness, and not reacting from wounds.
That's good. That's good, man.
So just to open that up real quick, how did that hit for y'all? How did that hit for you?
Do you want us to go first?
I'm gonna call her Gina.
Oh God. Say it one more time.
Making the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
So you're living from awareness, not reacting from wounds.
Yeah. I think if you even just take living from awareness, that feels like two parts. One is that you have to be aware, right? And then you have to choose to live in it. And I think that is such a complicated task, is to choose to be aware of what's going on internally and externally to you, and then also living in it consistently on purpose. Man, that sucks. Like
Hard.
that. I mean, that's what life is about. Life's about like avoiding life. Like,
Right. That was good.
life is
Yeah.
about avoiding it.
Say that.
It's about
It is.
like what else can we eat to make ourselves feel better? What can we avoid? What can we scroll? What can we watch constantly? Right. And so that, I think that's the thing that's resonating with me, and I'm sitting here processing like what's the thing that I need to become more aware of and then consistently live into it.
Yeah.
That's just whew. And that was only like 2 words
Listen.
of what you said.
Listen.
I just want to name that.
I'm
Okay, 2
going to
words.
ask a question, but I'm going to ask it to my bruh first, and then kind of get the perspective of what you guys
Yeah.
feel.
Uh-huh.
The last part of that, like living from awareness, but not reacting from wounds. Guys don't really like to talk about that all the time,
No.
but it shows up a lot
It
in
does.
how we show up. When you hear that, what stands out for you?
Yeah, man, listen, when I hear that, I think about operating from wounds, and I think about my own life and realizing that for a large part of my life, I operated from wounds. I didn't know it when I was doing it. And then when I found out that I was doing it, I did not decide to say, hey, let's start to heal from this. It was like, oh, this hurts too much. So instead of going through the process of getting healing, receiving healing, asking to be healed, putting the work in, I said, nope, that hurts too much. We're going to keep this facade, these bandages, these Band-Aids right here on these wounds and let them be. Now, watch this. They're festering underneath the bandages, right?
Yeah,
Come on,
right.
somebody.
They're long.
They're festering underneath the bandages. But I'd rather have the wounds fester and become infected instead of going to do the work to get healed,
Yeah.
to do the healing. So it's a hard place to come out of. And here's the thing. I know we're going to talk about this later on. The only true way to come out of it, of course, 1, Jesus. We all know that. 2, in community.
Yep.
Can't do it by yourself.
At all.
Yeah.
You can try. You will fail.
Yeah. It made me think, as you guys are about to give a reflection of that, there's some, we talk about self-awareness and people look at it as like this personal development work. And everybody's, this is another book or another podcast or anything talking about personal development work. But I know that we here at Next Step Collective believe that it's not about personal development work only. It's relational and
For sure.
professional necessity.
Yes.
We
Have
cannot
to.
show up well if we're not doing that looking
it.
into side of
Right.
all of our stuff that we don't always want to talk about, that we always don't want to deal with, and taking and doing the work that it takes to really grow and develop. But I'm a challenge us and just hear from the ladies for a second. Like we
Yeah.
know that that's a thing, and I know growing up I heard, to be very honest, women talk more about that. You know, I'm working on myself, doing what I do to get
Yeah.
better. I didn't really hear that a lot till I got older that males were doing it. But what is you guys' perspective on that? Like that awareness, not reacting from wounds.
Yeah, I think it's critical. I think I had to get to a place because I understand the stuffing and the festering and not dealing with it. But I think even recently, like in the last year or two, in particular, I remember even saying to Gina in conversation, I was like, healing hurts,
Yeah.
but
That's
not
good.
healing hurts more.
Mm-hmm.
And not healing hurts me more, and it hurts people in my life more. So if
That's
I'm
right.
going to be a better me, and if I'm going to show up as my best self for myself and for my community, it was like I have to do this work of getting into some awareness of like, oh, this is why I operate this way.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back and look at that. But then like coming from a place and operating from healing, not operating from the wounds. Like, and I still have a long way to go. Don't hear that I've arrived. That's not it.
All of us.
But it like have come such a long way that sometimes I'll even in the moment be like, oh, I'm thinking about that in a better way. And it feels good.
Yeah.
So healing hurts, but not healing for me was more hurtful.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think for me, I mean, just hearing everybody share, and in particular, obviously my husband, I think while I agree, Kevin, like what I saw was women leaning into it more, I still came from a community that didn't really talk about being healthy and whole in the sense of like how we're talking about it. It was more of like pray it away, it'll get
Yeah.
better, or it was I don't know, it was either hyper spiritual and not clear,
Yeah.
or it was dismissed and you can fix it. right?
Okay.
But not on purpose, like not from a mean place, not from,
Sure.
it just didn't have the tools. So pursuing a degree in human development and on to grad school for social work, and then as an adult, like really, I would say the last 10 years of my life have been my formational journey of like unpacking those things. So, you know, I sit here today at almost 46. So basically from 36 to 46 is when I did that work.
Okay.
And I think sometimes we require a lot of ourselves, or we look back on our lives and we're like, I wish I would have known that. Yeah, you could wish you would have known it earlier.
100.
But the reality is most of us aren't going to hit a certain spiritual formation or awareness peak until we've gone through enough stuff
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
to
it.
allow us to realize like, oh, here's where we have gaps. But in going back to what Eric was saying, the reason why I mentioned him is because, like, you know, we're raising boys. And I think about, you know, I want to raise men who are aware and
Yeah, that's
have
good.
their identity first in Christ, and then just rooted in clearly who they are.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we're raising young men like that. But
Yes.
it's work, because society tells you different.
All day long.
So yeah, it's work.
The real work for growth is making the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
So we're living from awareness and not reacting from wounds.
Yeah.
So
I
good.
love it. I'm gonna pass it to you, sis, so we
Yeah.
can get into this next part of the content. and
Yeah, you know,
conversation.
everything Kevin was saying about self-awareness and this idea of it, I hope that for those of you joining us are really leaning in and hearing from us that this isn't optional, it's actually foundational. Like it's a requirement. So like when you're thinking about your growth journey, you're thinking about who you want to be, who you want to become, having clarity about your identity is a requirement. It's foundational
Yeah, it's
before you can do anything else. And so I want to take this and then put it into the context of leadership. You had mentioned it a little bit, Kevin, about forgive me for not recalling exactly how you said it, but the you know, we believe in personal development, but not just for the person, but also in your relationships as well as in your professional work.
You got it.
Like
You
right
got
there. That was good.
Hey.
You got
Because I did not read that. That was
captured it.
recall. That was recall.
Let's go.
But so as we continue this conversation, and I think about leadership, I think about the various teams I've led, the teams I'm leading now, and I think about how diverse they all are, how diverse each and every person is. And I'm not just talking about race or ethnicity or gender. I'm talking about like life experience. I'm talking about identity.
Right.
Like if every person is an individual and every person has their own identity, then we immediately have diversity. It's
Right.
that simple. It's that simple. And so when you're leading diverse teams, being self-aware, it's foundational, but it's not enough. It's
Yeah.
not enough,
So
right?
good.
So we actually have to turn that awareness into wholeness. Like we have to operate out of like who we are in incomplete. And so, because like you can't compartmentalize and lead well.
No.
At all.
Like
That's
I think
good.
we compartmentalize to survive.
That's true.
And
Sure.
there are things, like I'm sure you all have stories where if you think about a time when you were leading, you compartmentalized so you didn't end up in jail.
Yep, absolutely.
You
Like last week.
you compartmentalize so you don't offend someone,
yep.
right? You compartmentalize for a moment, right? So I think compartmentalization, okay, it's survival for like a moment or a thing, but to be ongoing in
Say
compartmentalization,
it.
that is not healthy.
Say it.
Right.
Yep.
And you can't lead well from there,
Right.
right? Because we have to move from awareness to wholeness, right? So when you're leading diverse teams, you're leading people who bring different identities into the room. They have different backgrounds, different cultures, different life experiences, different ways of building trust,
Yeah.
handling conflict, and communicating expectations. And those differences don't disappear. Like that's who they are.
Right.
And even if it's not who they are at first. So I've led so many teams over the course of my life. I've been very fortunate to be in places of influence and levels of leadership, early on. And
Yeah.
I think about, even working at a church. I think sometimes people work, and I've worked in different church environments. I had a long stint at a church, but I also worked in church environments before that. And sometimes we are just silly as human beings.
Oh, yeah.
We think that, I work at a church, everybody loves Jesus, and it is well. No.
Not quite. Not quite.
Because everybody's human beings,
Right.
right? Everybody's human beings. So whether it's a church or a nonprofit or a Fortune 500 or a small entrepreneurial business like we happen to be in, shout out to Conspire today.
Hey.
What up, Conspire?
We all, like this. The thing is still the thing. Everybody's bringing their different identities. And so it always reveals itself. So back to the church idea, it's like, so people would come in, and I do believe in spiritual gifts. I believe in, there are certain ways that each of us are wired, and we can use that wiring as a part of our identity to fulfill our calling. One of my wirings or giftings is discernment. I can't explain it to you, but people come in a certain way, and I'm like, it's like spidey senses for those of you that don't know what discernment is. Spiritual spidey senses. And so I remember working with somebody within the last 15 years, and this person came in, and 1 minute they were just one way, very positive, very team oriented, very mentoring, very encouraging. And then the next minute I was like, do they have a twin? Did the twin enter the conversation? And they have a different personality, right? And what I was discerning is that this person was bringing what they had compartmentalized at home was being revealed in a very tough moment. And I was like, oh. And it wasn't that they were hiding. It was that they weren't their whole selves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And you don't have to tell all your business and overshare.
Sure.
But if
Right.
you don't get healing, if you don't have clarity about who you are and your identity,
Yes.
if you are not whole, it will reveal itself.
Every time.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And even I'm saying it from a perspective of you need to have it for you. You also need to model it and teach it and equip your team
Yes.
so that they understand what being a whole person looks like at work.
So good.
They don't have to overshare, because you all have those oversharers. I was trying to
mean-
think of a name that would go with oversharing, but oversharing Overton. I don't know. But there's
All
always
over the Overton.
somebody
Yeah.
on our teams that share too much business. That's not what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about somebody who in your wholeness, you can be authentically transparent. You can
Yeah.
show up in a way that provides space in the room for everybody to feel transparent and to be authentic,
Yeah.
right? That's what wholeness looks like.
That's good.
So when leaders try to lead as only a role instead of being whole, right? People feel it,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
People know that somebody's performing out of title
Mm-hmm.
and not out of who they are as a whole person. In the work that I get to do with the Maxwell Leadership Certified team, I serve as a faculty member, and I talk to people about showing up authentically. And I talk about it for a lot of reasons, but one reason in particular is just even in business building. People buy you.
They do.
Exactly.
They don't
That's right.
buy your content.
Exactly.
No, not
They
at all.
don't buy the thing you're selling. They
Right.
buy you.
Yep.
They lean in because who you are. So the question I have is for our listeners, as you're leaning into us, is are you congruent, or are you code switching and performing?
Okay.
Are you doing the things that you say that you will do? Are you who you say you are, or are you performing and hiding parts of yourself?
Right.
That if those parts were revealed,
People would be surprised.
they would be like, "Excuse me, Gina, who are you?" Right? Those are the space as leaders that we need to hold ourselves accountable to.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you guys to be a little bit vulnerable, and you could decide not to answer, but because it's an unplanned question. So, do you remember a time where maybe it wasn't your intention to perform, but you were doing more performing instead of showing up authentically? And what was that season about for you? What were the consequences of that?
Ooh.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what story is appropriate because the
when we
brother
were
was struggling.
Performing. Ask us one more time.
Yeah. So like, where was there a season in your life where maybe you were performing, and instead of being your authentic self, like you were compartmentalizing? There was like who you were at work, or who you were. Maybe it's not work. Maybe it's a relationship. Who you were in this relationship versus who your whole self was, or needed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually like the way you said that because for me it was both and.
Yeah.
Who I was at home was totally different than who I was at work, which then became another whole layer of who I was at work was totally different than who I was in my family. There was a lot of the code switching just in the roles. And I think to the second part of your question, like the consequence of that was, number one, it was draining.
Yeah.
I could not keep up the appearances.
Yeah.
And I felt empty most of the time to the point where the code switching, I was confused about what mask I was wearing. Didn't know which one to put on.
I have the wrong one on. Right.
Right,
Hurry up.
right.
Wait,
Wrong
switch
group,
it.
switch. And it cost me some things. It cost me a lot for myself, who I saw in the mirror. I lost myself.
Yeah.
But it also cost me some relationships that I think if I would have shown up better, or had the tools to show up better, that I would still have some relationships, or some of those relationships would be healthier.
Yeah. That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think about, I work at a community center attached to a church where I've been for, I don't know, a million years, 18 or so. But I think when I first started working there, I had you mentioned a church like is still made of people. And I wasn't allowing myself to be a people, right? Like I came in day one and it was like, okay, I have to say the right thing and like never be upset and always pray and always be, and it's just, not that those things aren't good, but it also wasn't, I didn't feel like I could be just a real human with real frustrations and real emotions. I learned pretty quickly that I could be, but there was a season for sure where I felt like I was, like a puppet.
Yeah.
Just had to be on all the time and never let anything negative show.
Yeah. How about you?
I think about over a large part of my life, believing that I had to put on masks and I had to show one thing here and be another person over here. I think about being a new leader years ago at a company that no longer exists, and like I got to be this way for my team.
Yeah.
But outside of here, I got to be this way. I got to be this way at church. But my family expects me to be this way.
Yeah.
And my friends expect me to show up this way. I think about being an 18-year-old freshman in college, thinking I had to be, tough and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Heavy D. Shout out to the late Heavy D. I'm rough and tough and all that stuff. Make you dance and prance till you huff and puff. Anyway, I thought I had to be all that like Heavy D. But I didn't need to be that. And what it makes me think of an interaction in the Bible with Jesus and Nathaniel.
Yeah.
Nathaniel shows up and they're telling him like, yo, Nate, bruh, this is the Messiah from Nazareth. And Nathaniel's like, Nazareth? Can anything good come from Nazareth? And Jesus says, I love this cat because there's no, as the King James would put it, there's no guile. In other words, ain't nothing false about this brother right here. He's going to tell it like it is. And at some point in our lives, we've got to learn to get to the point where we can tell it like it is. Watch this. Without just telling somebody off, or watch this, unloading our junk, our funk and our mess, just because we needed to. Oh, I got that off my chest and now I'm good. Well, all you did is just dump on that person,
Right.
or dump
Right.
on those people.
Right.
You didn't help yourself,
Right.
and you certainly didn't help them.
Right. That's good. One day there'll be a published Eric James version of the Bible. He tells his own versions.
Every
Of
chance I
stories.
Can't
get.
wait.
It's
So-
that way.
Cannot wait.